Did you know Elvis Presley's iconic gold lane suit cost a whopping $10,000 back in 1957? Or that the designer behind his famous jumpsuits, Bill Belew, also designed outfits for figures like the Osmonds and Gloria Estefan. And get this, Elvis owned over 200 custom-made jumpsuits, each one a unique piece of wearable art, sometimes weighing dozens of pounds. His jet black hair wasn't natural. He started dyeing it early in his career, reportedly after trying his mother's shoe polish first. Number 9. The Vegas jumpsuit was basically superhero armor. Okay, let's talk about the look that screams Elvis louder than a stadium full of fans. The Las Vegas jumpsuit. Forget subtle, forget understated. This was pure, unadulterated showmanship stitched into fabric. When Elvis made his big stage comeback in Vegas in 1969, he needed something that matched the scale of the venue and the energy of his performance. Enter Bill Belew, a costume designer who understood drama. The first jumpsuits were relatively simple, often white or black, inspired by karate gis. Elvis was a keen martial artist holding a black belt. They needed to allow for movement. Those kicks, those lunges, those swiveling hips needed room. Think about the practicality. A one-piece outfit meant no worries about shirts coming untucked during energetic performances. It was a streamlined solution for a high-octane show. But simple didn't stay simple for long. These weren't just clothes. They were canvases. Belew started adding embellishments, studs, rhinestones, embroidery chains, more studs, more rhinestones. The designs became increasingly intricate and thematic. There was the Aloha Eagle jumpsuit from the 1973 satellite broadcast concert, possibly the most famous one, white, with a giant American eagle, embroidered in gold, blue, and red studs across the chest and back, complete with a matching cape. It was patriotism meets peacocking. There was the peacock jumpsuit, featuring, well, peacocks in stunning detail. The tiger suit, the dragon suit, the sundial suit each told a story, reflected a mood, or just looked incredibly cool under the stage lights. The necklines plunged daringly low, often to the sternum, adding a layer of raw sex appeal. The legs flared out, bell-bottom style, balancing the silhouette, and the capes. Oh, the capes! Heavy, often lined with contrasting, shimmering fabrics, they added an element of regal, almost superhero-like drama to his entrances and big finishes. He'd spread the cape wide, a human spectacle, before launching into another powerhouse song. These capes weren't lightweight accessories. They were substantial garments, often as heavily decorated as the jumpsuits themselves. Imagine the weight of all those studs and gems, plus the fabric, under hot stage lights. It was a physical feat as much as a fashion statement. The jumpsuits evolved over the years, becoming more elaborate, sometimes criticized for being excessive, but they perfectly captured the larger-than-life persona of Vegas Elvis. They were custom-made for his body and his stage presence, costing thousands upon thousands of dollars each. We're talking intricate, hand-beading, metalwork, custom belts, wearable sculptures. These weren't off-the-rack items. They were couture stagewear, designed to make Elvis look like the king he was, visible from the furthest seats in those massive Vegas showrooms. The influence is undeniable. Think about stagewear for rock stars and pop icons ever since. That level of bespoke, thematic, high-impact costuming owes a nod to the man in the white and blue and black and studded jumpsuit. He made stage costumes an event in themselves. Number 8. The Bling King. Jewelry and accessories were not optional. Elvis didn't just wear clothes, he adorned himself. Accessories weren't an afterthought, they were central to his look, amplifying the extravagance, especially in his later years. Forget moniste chic. Elvis embraced maximalism with open arms and decorated fingers. Rings were a huge part of his signature style. He often wore multiple large, chunky rings on both hands, laden with diamonds, rubies, sapphires, emeralds, and other precious stones, often set in heavy gold. One of the most famous was the TCB ring. Taking care of business was Elvis's motto for himself and his inner circle, the Memphis Mafia. He had gold necklaces and rings made featuring the letters TCB alongside a lightning bolt. These weren't subtle pieces, they were bold declarations, symbols of loyalty and his personal brand. He reportedly gave TCB jewelry away generously to friends and associates. Beyond the TCB items, he favored horseshoe rings for luck, rings with large nugget textures, crest rings, and pieces featuring religious or animal motifs. They flashed under the stage lights as he gripped the microphone or gestured to the crowd. It wasn't just rings, though. Necklaces were also prominent. Gold chains, often thick ones, were a staple. He wore pendants, including crosses, reflecting his religious background. The Star of David, reflecting his exploration of different faiths and his maternal Jewish heritage, and other medallions. Sometimes he layered multiple chains. Then came the belts. Ah, the belts! Especially during the jumpsuit era, the belts were monumental. They weren't just functional, they were centerpieces. Designed by Bill Belew and others, these belts were wide, often made of leather, and covered in massive, ornate buckles, studs, chains, and sometimes even sculpted metal figures like eagles or lions. They echoed the themes of the jumpsuits and added another layer of visual impact, drawing attention to his waist and hip movements. Some belts were so heavy and elaborate they looked like championship wrestling belts, dripping with gold and jewels. And let's not forget the sunglasses. Elvis made sunglasses cool indoors and at night. His signature shades, especially the large gold-framed aviator styles with custom-tinted lenses, often amber or blue, became synonymous with his image in the 70s. They added an aura of mystery and rock star detachment, shielding his eyes but amplifying his cool factor. He owned countless pairs, often custom-made. Think about those iconic photos of him, stepping off a plane or emerging from a limo. The sunglasses were almost always part of the ensemble, completing the look of untouchable stardom. Even watches weren't just timepieces. They were statement jewelry, often gold, sometimes diamond encrusted like the iconic Hamilton Ventura, the futuristic electric watch he wore in the movie Blue Hawaii. Elvis understood the power of accessories to elevate an outfit from mere clothing to a full-blown statement of identity and status. He wasn't afraid to pile on the bling, mixing precious metals and gemstones with a confidence that made it all work. This embrace of bold, often ostentatious, accessorizing definitely left its mark, paving the way for future generations of performers to embrace flashy jewelry as part of their stage and personal style. Number 7. That hair. The pompadour and sideburns became iconic symbols. You can't talk about Elvis's style without talking about his hair. It was more than just hair. It was a cultural phenomenon, a symbol of rebellion, and meticulously crafted sculpture. In the 1950s, when clean-cut crew cuts were the norm for young men, Elvis burst onto the scene with a high, greased-back pompadour that defied convention. It was daring, it was different, and it oozed attitude. That wasn't his natural hair color either. Elvis was a natural sandy blonde. Early in his career, he started dyeing it jet black. Why? Some say it was to look more dramatic on black and white television and in photos, making his features stand out. Others say it was influenced by comic book heroes or movie stars like Tony Curtis. Whatever the reason, the jet black color became integral to his look. Achieving that signature pompadour took effort and product. Lots of product. Care, oils, waxes, pomades, Brill cream, Royal Crown hair dressing. Pomades named things like Dixie Peach were used liberally to sculpt the hair high on top, slicked back or slightly duck-tailed in the rear, with the sides combed back sleekly. It required careful combing and shaping. That volume, that shine, that structure, it was a statement against conformity. And then there were the sideburns. While sideburns weren't entirely new, Elvis grew his long and thick, extending down his cheeks, framing his face in a way that was considered quite radical for the time. In the conservative 50s, long sideburns were often associated with rougher elements, rebels, or hoodlums. Elvis wore them with pride, making them part of his signature rock and roll look. They added to his edgy, slightly dangerous appeal. As his career progressed, the hair evolved. The pompadour softened slightly in the early 60s during his movie era. But then came the 70s, and the sideburns grew even longer and bushier, becoming massive mutton chops that connected to his styled, still black hair, which was now worn longer and fuller, often collar-length in the back. This later hairstyle, combined with the jumpsuits and sunglasses, defined his Vegas-era look. Maintaining the color wasn't always easy. There are reports of mishaps with hair dye, including allergic reactions or dye running under hot stage lights. Yet, the commitment to the look remained. His hair wasn't just a hairstyle. It was a key component of the Elvis Presley brand. It was instantly recognizable, widely imitated, and endlessly discussed. Guys started growing their hair out, experimenting with pompadours and sideburns, trying to capture a bit of that Elvis cool. It became a symbol of youth culture and the burgeoning rock and roll movement. Even today, the silhouette of that pompadour is universally recognized as Elvis. It's a testament to how a specific hairstyle can transcend fashion and become a lasting cultural icon. Number 6. Leather Rebel. From biker cool to comeback king. Leather jackets are a staple of cool, and Elvis knew how to wear them. Long before the Vegas jumpsuits, leather played a key role in crafting his image, particularly in projecting rebellion and raw energy. In the 1950s, the black leather motorcycle jacket was already gaining traction as a symbol of youthful defiance, thanks to actors like Marlon Brando in The Wild One. Elvis embraced this look, often pairing a leather jacket with jeans or casual trousers, a simple shirt, and that signature sneer. The leather jacket signaled danger, non-conformity, and a break from the wholesome image often expected of young stars. It connected him visually to the rebellious spirit of rock and roll music itself. Think about photos from his early career performing live or posing for publicity shots. The leather jacket added an immediate edge, a sense of untamed energy. But the most legendary leather moment came much later, cementing the material's place in his stylistic legacy, the '68 comeback special. After years spent making movies, many of which were light-hearted musicals that didn't fully capture his raw talent, Elvis needed to reassert himself as the king of rock and roll. The television special, initially conceived as a gentle Christmas show, was transformed, largely at Elvis's insistence, into a showcase of his electrifying performance power. And the outfit for the core informal performance segments. Head-to-toe black leather. Designed by Bill Belew, yes, him again. This wasn't just any leather outfit. It was custom-made, skin-tight, featuring a high-collared jacket zipped low and matching leather pants. It was incredibly flattering, trouting his lean physique. He'd worked hard to get back in shape for the special, and it radiated pure, unadulterated sex appeal and rock star charisma. The look was mature, powerful, and undeniably cool. Performing classics like Heartbreak Hotel and Hound Dog in that black leather suit, Elvis looked and sounded vital, dangerous, and utterly captivating. He wasn't the boyish rebel of the '50s anymore. He was a seasoned performer reclaiming his throne, and the leather amplified that message. It was a visual statement. Elvis was back, and he meant business. The impact of that black leather suit was immense. It became one of his most iconic looks, perhaps second only to the white jumpsuits. It reminded everyone of his roots in rock and roll rebellion, while presenting a sleek, modern image. The '68 comeback special revitalized his career and set the stage for his Vegas residency. And that leather outfit became instantly legendary. It's been referenced and repiked countless times in fashion and pop culture. It proved the enduring power of a simple black leather jacket, or in this case a full suit, to convey attitude, coolness, and timeless style. Elvis demonstrated how leather could transition from youthful rebellion to mature, potent charisma, making it a permanent fixture in the rock and roll wardrobe. Number 5. Color shock. Pink, black, and gold dominated his palette. Elvis wasn't afraid of color. In an era where men's fashion often leaned towards conservative blues, grays, and browns, he embraced bold, eye-catching hues that matched his vibrant personality and music. 3 colors in particular became strongly associated with his style throughout different phases of his career: pink, black, and gold. Pink, especially in the 1950s, was a surprisingly prominent color in Elvis's wardrobe. Think pink Cadillacs, but also pink shirts, pink jackets, and pink socks. At the time, pink was not commonly worn by men, often considered strictly feminine. Elvis wearing pink was a statement. It was unconventional, slightly flamboyant, and challenged traditional gender norms in fashion. He often paired pink with black, creating a high-contrast, visually striking combination that became emblematic of the rockabilly era. A pink sport coat over a black shirt, or black pants with pink stitching, or detailing this combo was youthful, energetic, and perfectly suited the exciting new sound of rock and roll. Wearing pink demonstrated his confidence and his willingness to push boundaries, not just in music but in style too. It was part of what made him seem so fresh and different. Black was another cornerstone of his style, representing different things at different times. In the 50s, black, often paired with that rebellious pink, added edge and coolness. Black leather jackets, black shirts, black pants, it was the uniform of the rock and roll rebel. Black was sleek, a little mysterious, and undeniably cool. Later, black took on a new significance with the '68 Comeback Special's head-to-toe black leather suit, symbolizing power, rebirth, and raw charisma. Even in the Vegas years, alongside the dazzling white jumpsuits, Elvis frequently wore black jumpsuits, often just as elaborately decorated, offering a darker, equally powerful stage presence. Black remained a constant, versatile element in his wardrobe, capable of conveying rebellion, sophistication, or dramatic flair. Then there was gold. Gold signified success, luxury, and pure, unadulterated stardom for Elvis. The most famous example, of course, is the gold lame suit, commissioned by his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, for $10,000, an astronomical sum for clothing in 1957. The suit consisted of a jacket, pants, shoes, tie, and belt, all shimmering gold. Elvis reportedly didn't love wearing the full suit, finding the pants uncomfortable for performing his energetic moves, so he often wore the gold jacket with black pants instead. The image of Elvis in that gold lame jacket became instantly iconic, featured on the album cover for Elvis's Golden Records. It was the ultimate symbol of his meteoric rise and his status as the king. Gold wasn't limited to that one suit, though. Gold threads appeared in embroidery on his jumpsuits. Gold jewelry was a constant. Gold sunglasses framed his face, and gold accents adorned his belts and other accessories. Gold was the color of royalty, and Elvis wore it like the king he was. These three colors, the rebellious pink, the cool and powerful black, and the opulent gold, were more than just shades. They were integral parts of the visual language Elvis used to define his revolutionary style and larger-than-life persona. Number 4. Casual cool. His off-duty style also made waves. While Elvis's stage costumes were spectacular, his influence wasn't limited to jumpsuits and leather. His off-duty, casual style also set trends and reflected a changing attitude towards menswear. Even when not performing, Elvis had a distinct way of dressing that blended comfort, coolness, and a touch of his signature flair. In the 1950s, his casual look often revolved around pieces that were accessible, yet styled in a new way. Think pleated trousers, often in shades like black, gray, or khaki, but worn with a looser, more relaxed fit than the tightly tailored suits common at the time. This drape shape allowed for movement and projected a nonchalant attitude. He paired these with button-down shirts, but crucially, he often wore the collars popped up or the shirts opened several buttons down, revealing a hint of t-shirt underneath. This seemingly small detail, the popped collar, became a huge trend, signaling a kind of effortless, cool, and subtle rebellion against formality. Sport coats were also part of his casual rotation, but again worn with a certain ease, maybe in a bolder pattern or a brighter color, like pink, than was typical. He was also an early adopter of denim jeans as a fashion statement, not just workwear. Pairing jeans with a t-shirt or a casual shirt, and maybe that leather jacket solidified a look that became synonymous with American youth culture, and rock and roll. It was simple, accessible, yet packed with attitude. The way he wore these everyday items made them fashionable. During his Hollywood movie era in the early 60s, his casual style sometimes reflected the settings of his films. The most notable example is perhaps Blue Hawaii, 1961, which helped popularize Hawaiian aloha shirts. Elvis looked effortlessly cool in tropical prints, leis, and white pants, contributing to the tiki culture trend and making the Hawaiian shirt a mainstream vacation and casual wear staple for men. He showed that bright patterns and relaxed fits could be masculine and stylish. Even in his later years, amidst the Vegas glamour, his off-duty style retained certain elements. He favored comfortable tracksuits for lounging or traveling, but they were often custom-made, perhaps in velvet or velour, and paired with his signature sunglasses and jewelry. Casual, yes, but still distinctively Elvis. He also wore stylish pajama sets, sometimes seen in candid photos at Graceland. Across the decades, Elvis's casual wear showed an attention to detail and a willingness to bend the rules. Whether it was the fit of his pants, the way he wore his collar, his embrace of bold colors and patterns, or his elevation of simple items like jeans and t-shirts, his off-duty style projected confidence and individuality. He demonstrated that looking cool didn't always require a suit or a stage costume. It was about how you wore the clothes and the attitude you brought to them. This approach influenced everyday menswear, encouraging more relaxed fits, bolder choices, and a greater sense of personal expression. Number 3, the power of the collar. Popped, open, and always present. It might seem like a small detail, but the way Elvis wore his shirt collars was a significant part of his style signature and had a noticeable impact. Collars framed his face, added attitude, and became a subtle but consistent element of his look across different eras and outfits, from casual wear to stage costumes. In the 1950s, the popped collar was pure, youthful rebellion. While button-down shirts were standard menswear, Elvis often wore his sport shirts or even dress shirts with the collar flipped up in the back. This small act of sartorial defiance instantly signaled a break from convention, an effortless, nonchalant cool. It suggested he didn't care too much about rigid rules of dress. Paired with his pompadour and sometimes a leather jacket, the popped collar completed the image of the rock and roll heartthrob who played by his own rules. This look was widely imitated by teenagers wanting to capture some of that Elvis magic. You saw popped collars everywhere, a direct nod to his influence. Beyond just popping the collar, Elvis often wore his shirts open at the neck, sometimes quite low, revealing his chest or an undershirt. This was particularly true with his casual button-down shirts, and later dramatically so with his Vegas jumpsuits. In the more conservative 50s and early 60s, wearing a shirt unbuttoned several notches was considered daring, adding to his sensual appeal. It hinted at a certain vulnerability beneath the swagger, or perhaps just a disregard for formality. This contrasted sharply with the buttoned-up look often expected of men at the time. The collars themselves were often notable. He favored shirts with pointed collars, sometimes elongated spearpoint collars popular in the 50s, which added a sharp, graphic element to his look. Even his t-shirt necklines seemed chosen for effect. In the jumpsuit era, the collars became architectural elements. Bill Belew designed the jumpsuits with high dramatic collars that stood up around Elvis's neck, framing his face and adding to the regal, almost pharaoh-like silhouette. These weren't soft, foldable collars. They were structured, often stiffened and embellished with studs or embroidery, standing tall like guards around his famous profile. Think of the high wing-like collars on the Aloha eagle suit, or the sharp-pointed collars on the black leather 68 comeback outfit. They added height, drama, and a sense of power. Whether popped up casually, worn open daringly, or standing tall and structured on stage, the collar was a key focal point in Elvis's presentation. It drew attention to his face, enhanced his posture, and communicated attitude, rebellion, sex appeal, or regal power, depending on the context and the collar's style. It's a reminder that sometimes the smallest details in fashion can make the biggest statement, and Elvis knew exactly how to use them. Number 2. Breaking boundaries. Menswear gets flamboyant and expressive. Elvis Presley crashed into a world of relatively conservative menswear and blew it wide open. Before him, mainstream male performers often stuck to suits and ties, presenting a clean-cut, respectable image. Elvis brought a level of flamboyance, sensuality, and personal expression to men's fashion that was revolutionary for its time. He wasn't just dressing for the stage, he was challenging deeply ingrained notions of masculinity and propriety through his clothes. One of the most significant ways he broke boundaries was through his use of color. As mentioned, wearing pink in the 1950s was a bold move for a man directly challenging gendered color norms. His embrace of vibrant hues, shimmering fabrics like gold, lame, and eye-catching patterns showed that men could embrace color and decoration without compromising their masculinity. In fact, in Elvis's case, it amplified his charisma. He also brought overt sensuality into menswear. The way his clothes fit, the tight pants that highlighted his hip movements, the shirts worn open to the chest, the skin-tight leather of the 68 Special, the plunging necklines of the jumpsuits, was deliberately provocative. His movements on stage were scandalous to many in the 50s, and his clothing choices accentuated that physicality. He wasn't afraid to use fashion to enhance his sex appeal, something male performers hadn't done so explicitly or effectively before on such a massive scale. This opened the door for future performers to embrace sensuality in their image and attire. The sheer level of embellishment and theatricality, especially in the Vegas era, was groundbreaking for a male superstar. Rhinestones, studs, embroidery, capes, massive belts — this was ornamentation on a scale usually reserved for royalty, or perhaps female opera singers. Elvis made it okay for men, particularly performers, to embrace glamour and spectacle in their dress. He blurred the lines between masculine and feminine elements in fashion, incorporating flowing capes and sparkling jewels into his powerful stage presence. Furthermore, Elvis drew inspiration from various sources, including African American fashion and music culture, particularly the styles he saw on Beale Street in Memphis. The looser draped pants, the vibrant colors, and the overall sense of flair had roots in black-style communities. While performing and popularizing these styles to a wider white audience, he played a role, a complex and sometimes controversial one, in bringing these elements into the mainstream consciousness. His willingness to mix influences and defy categorization was part of his boundary-breaking appeal. He showed that men's fashion didn't have to be confined to a narrow set of rules. It could be expressive, individualistic, colorful, sensual, and theatrical. He gave men permission to experiment with their appearance, to stand out, and to use clothing as a form of self-expression. This legacy paved the way for decades of rock and pop fashion, from glamour rock's androgyny to punk's DIY modifications to modern pop stars' elaborate stage costumes. Elvis proved that for men, fashion could be as exciting and central to identity as the music itself. Number 1. The Rockabilly Blueprint, defining a whole new genre's look. Before Elvis exploded onto the national scene in the mid-1950s, there wasn't really a defined look for rock and roll or its precursor, rockabilly. Musicians came from various backgrounds, country blues, R&B, and often dressed accordingly. Elvis, along with contemporaries like Carl Perkins and Johnny Cash, though Cash favored black, helped forge a distinct visual identity for this new rebellious sound. And Elvis's version became the most iconic and influential. His early style was a fusion, much like the music itself. He blended elements of traditional workwear, Southern dandyism, and influences from the black musicians and communities he admired. Key ingredients of the Elvis Rockabilly Blueprint included loose pleated pants, often called drape pants. These were different from the slim-fitting jeans that would later become associated with rock, offering a sense of swagger and allowing for his leg-shaking movements. They were often high-waisted. Boldly patterned or colored sport coats and jackets. Think checks, plaids, or solids in eye-catching colors, like the famous pink, often worn over a contrasting shirt. These added a touch of flash and personality. 2. Tone shoes. Spectator shoes or saddle shoes, often in black and white or other contrasting combinations, were a popular choice, adding a sharp, graphic element to the look. Dress shirts worn casually. As noted before, collars popped, buttons undone, may be paired with a skinny tie or a bolo tie for a touch of Western flair. Simple t-shirts. Sometimes, the look was pared down to a basic white or black t-shirt, often with the sleeves rolled up, projecting an image of youthful toughness. The leather jacket, the ultimate symbol of cool rebellion, borrowed from biker culture and movie icons. The hair. That meticulously sculpted pompadour and the daring sideburns were crucial elements, signaling non-conformity. This combination of elements created a look that was sharp yet relaxed, rebellious yet stylish. It was distinctly American, blending rural and urban influences, black and white styles. It was youthful and energetic, perfectly mirroring the sound and attitude of rockabilly music. Elvis didn't necessarily invent all these individual elements, but he put them together with unparalleled charisma and made them famous. He shopped at places like Landscape Rose on Beale Street in Memphis, a store that catered to a diverse clientele and offered flashier styles than mainstream department stores. His choices reflected his personality and his roots, but projected onto the national stage via television appearances on shows like Ed Sullivan's. They became aspirational for millions of young people. Boys started dressing like Elvis, combing their hair like Elvis, trying to move like Elvis. The rockabilly look he pioneered became the uniform for a generation, copied by countless bands and fans around the world. It established a visual language for rock and roll rebellion that persists in various forms even today. From the cut of the jacket to the shine on the shoes, the early Elvis look wasn't just fashion, it was the embodiment of a cultural revolution, setting the blueprint for rock star style for decades to come.